Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just glad to be saying that we've got a game tomorrow, as of now anyway, right? That's kind of how this goes. It's been a long time coming. We started our full staff meeting this morning with just a gratitude, and that a lot goes into this, right? You recruit good players, you have to deal with the COVID protocols, you have a staff of new people in some cases that never got to look at Carolina and just had to join and make their part known. So a lot goes into this game day. What success looks like for us is that by the end of the weekend, we know what our next steps are as a team. And hopefully we come out on top with 3 wins, right? You recruit winners, you coach to create winning habits, and then the players have to win it one possession at a time. And it kind of comes down to being that simple. But I don't really know what to expect, right? We haven't had a scrimmage. As you guys all well documented, I've got basically an entirely new roster. And life is better lived through experience. And now we're going to have to start gaining experience starting 1:00 tomorrow.
All right, we will jump right into questions. If there's any, Tom, if you want to, Tom, go first, and then we'll,
right.
And then I'll get to the electronic hands.
Hi, Coach. Tom Purvis. I do the radio for Radford. First question, a lot of new faces for your team compared to last year. You brought in a lot of talent. What do you like about your team right now going into this first game?
I love the depth. Tom, it's important every year, but it's really critical in a year like this, because I'm kind of joking, but also telling the truth. That's who, we have a certain group available today, and I don't know who will be available tomorrow. And so the depth is really going to be important in terms of, like you said, we have talents that I think at all pieces, but when you have depth, you have some accountabilities built in. So we have a next up if needed. And that's probably what I'm most excited about.
Do you have a follow-up right there, or you want to?
Sure, I have another one. So as a coach trying to prepare for ACC play, obviously, typically you have like 8 to 9 non-conference games. With only 5 this year, what changes for you just trying to prepare your team?
Yeah, in 3 and 5 days. I think this is kind of a scrimmage as well, right? Because we didn't have that. And I know that sounds really coachy, but a scrimmage is important. It's the first time your team plays against a jersey that doesn't look like yours. And I know that sounds really simple when we're sitting here overdressed in an office. It's totally different inside the lines when you're used to playing against the same group of people and then there's a different opponent, right? And I hope we respond well to that and lean on some older guys to help through that, and younger guys' enthusiasm to kind of play through it. But we've got, like you said, we've got 5 non-conference, which in essence is 2.5 weeks of games before ACC play. And we've got to find out game to game what we need to get better at as a staff to know that for our team. And that starts Wednesday afternoon and it continues Saturday afternoon and again Sunday afternoon. And we just kind of chip away.
Great. Let's go to Mike.
Afternoon, Coach. Nice to see you. I love the built-in shelves. You touched on it to start as far as, finally getting your feet wet, but specifically against Radford tomorrow, with everything that's gone into finally playing, other than a win, what are you looking to get out of tomorrow and see from your team?
Experience, inside the lines experience for 5 freshmen, for a couple transfers who've never played for me, so 90% of the roster, I'm not great at math, but it feels like 90% of the roster never played for me. So having an opportunity to just them get inside the lines and gain some experience. And then that will better tell us where our holes are, because we know what our holes are in terms of practices, but that's kind of irrelevant. We'll find out more against somebody else where our holes are and where our strengths are. So yeah, the experience is going to be critical at this point.
Let's go to Brian Keys with the DTH.
Hey, Coach. As of right now, do you have any idea what the rotation is going to look like? And do you know where Jalen's going to slot in after missing last year?
I think the benefit of, I was saying on an earlier call, what Jalen provides is she's got a lot of experience, and where there are some post players that are probably ahead of her in terms of what they can provide offensively and defensively over a sustained game. She has the experience that will allow her to ebb and flow throughout a different lineup. So she's gotten some time at the 3 spot, which is more of a perimeter facing player, as well as the energy that she can provide as a 4-man and even a defending a 5-man. So Jalen's calling card is going to be ready to play a variety of positions and continue to be the barometer of our team's well-being in terms of how they compete and stay together. But, actually Dana was asking me for our video board, the starting lineup, and obviously the game is literally in exactly 24 hours, and I still don't know it. So that's not coach speak. I know it would make everybody's life easier if we knew starting lineups. Coaches don't really care about that when you have a deep team. I know the players and media do, but by 1:00 tomorrow, there'll be 5 people that are starting that game, and I know within reason who they are. I think I gave you 8 names, Dana, but yeah, I don't know yet. But the rotation is you will see whoever's in a uniform tomorrow, every single one of them will play. I can guarantee that.
And then with Jalen at the 3, how's her jump shot looking? Her first couple of years, she wasn't really much of a shooter. So
Yeah.
do you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, I didn't say Jalen's a 3. I said what Jalen is she's fluid. And I think because of her experience, she kind of understands the things that happen a lot. And as a college basketball coach, you got to be good at things that happen a lot. Transition from offense to defense, transition from defense to offense, rebounding, getting into the gaps, guarding your own, and those are things that are span all positions. And so I think where Jalen's going to have the most effective role for us is where are the holes, because of COVID and maybe a stomach ache or a stuffy nose now takes you out for a game because your test result won't come back. Whereas typically it wouldn't. You're going to have less people active, and then you throw in an ankle sprain or any sort of other issue. So we will not have all 12 dressed tomorrow. I don't know who exactly is and isn't dressing, but what's going to be great for her is I think she's someone who can move positions because of her experience easier than some others, and that's going to really help us.
Thank you.
Cool. Let's go to M. Adler, who's joining us as a guest from the Crosstown Duke Chronicle. M.
Hi. I just wanted to ask about your current freshman class and next year's incoming class. Sorry to distract from the opener real quickly.
No problem.
I know you don't like to look backwards often, but how did you so quickly convince high-level players that UNC was changing?
Yeah, gosh, there are 2 types of coaches. I said this on my interview to Carolina. There are 2 types of coaches in college basketball: those that can recruit and those that get fired. It's that simple. So when I got this job, what I did was I started recruiting, and you recruit players that are like-minded because you're going to have to coach them if they come. And I think the thing I did best and I'm most grateful for is I didn't take a shortcut. And that was really hard. I was so tempted at times for this kid that's not quite as good as Kayla McPherson, the incoming point guard. It's like there was a kid that, there are kids that are almost as good, or they're also in top 100, but they're not as good as Kayla. But if I don't get Kayla, I just lost that kid. And I just stayed strong that, to build this program, you've got to go after the best ones and you got to get them. And so the ball bounced the right way, and I got exactly who I wanted. And I know it doesn't always happen that way, but good things happen to those that are nice to their moms. And I'm very nice to my mom.
And then just to follow up, is there anything that you and your assistant staff really sold to those recruits that particularly differentiated UNC for them?
I think it's a little bit what sold Carolina to me. And I told that story. I have obviously had a lot of success at Princeton and as an international brand, and you get kind of some of the best in terms of excellence. And why would you leave, right? There's no reason to leave there. I turned down, as you know, probably many jobs. And so I talked about my why, right? And going to a place that women's sports matters. And every school can say that. Well, how many national championships does your women's sports win, right? So it's a place where women's sports matters at Carolina. It's a state and an institution where basketball matters. It's a state that's won. It's a team that's won, a program that's won a national championship. So it's proof that it actually can happen. And it's a high academic institution that I can recruit across state lines if I need it. And it's an international brand. And so you don't have to take shortcuts. So I sort of told my story. And then I also, you play for people more so than places. And so I just shared my personality and shared my vision. And it wasn't anything, honestly, that required a neuroscience undergraduate degree. It was more about connection. And just the hardest thing to do as coaches is you have to make really hard decisions, and those decisions happen. And like, oh God, if you don't take that kid, she's out. So if you don't get this one, where is your fallback plan? And I was constantly sort of managing through that. But I also built the team. I knew we first needed a kid that could do a little bit of everything and be rugged, and be a kind of a garbage man who will rebound, run, and be a competitor. And that was Destiny Adams. So I sort of started, and piece by piece, that helped as well. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, no, perfect. Appreciate it.
Let's go Mitchell next.
Hey, thanks for doing this. I just wanted to ask, Petra, is a player who last year, obviously different team and all that, but she was at Illinois. She was the top dog. She was taking the most shots, had the ball in her hands a ton. I was just curious, kind of from a coaching perspective, how do you take a player like that who is used to being the number one option, having to do kind of everything, and to sort of make her, a player who's a complimentary, can kind of pick her spots a little bit and doesn't have to have that burden of kind of carrying the team every single night. I'm sure some nights she will, because she's that good, but how do you sort of, I guess, make her understand that?
Well, I don't, right? I hope she does. I hope she is. If she's the top dog, that means that we're making a lot of threes, right? So, I don't want any of them to think less about what their role is. I want them to kind of understand that to basically understand basketball, right? The more the ball moves, the more the defense moves. It's much easier to score against a moving defense than a set defense. Now, if you shoot your shot and it goes in, that's a great offense, regardless of what else happened on the floor, right? And so we talk a lot about ball movement just because it's the way to play basketball, as well as if we need our experienced guys to do what they do. The more that they do that, the less that we require from the super talented freshman young guys. So I haven't really, to be honest, Mitchell, had that conversation with her. I've instead said that if your voice isn't the loudest in the guard group, you're not doing what you came here to do, and that was to lead a team. You wanted to play in the NCAA tournament. It's why you left. We're not going to get to the NCAA tournament because someone's going to hand it to us. And so she's been vocal, she's been consistent, and she loves Carolina, and that's been really fun for her to have that energy for a place she's really excited about.
Sure. And just a quick follow-up, I was looking at her numbers last year. She attempted, I think, about 5.5 threes per game. Is that number kind of in a ballpark that you would like to see this season, a little bit more?
Yeah, I think Petra can really stretch the defense. I think teams know that. And so it's going to be important that Watts and Deja and others shoot well too, so that she can get some of those off. But she also can really go off the dribble. I told her she's better off the dribble than was advertised. So I'm happy with that. If Petra makes 5 threes a game, then maybe she has to take 5, maybe she has to take 10, but I care more about makes. And the more threes she makes a game, the better we're going to be. So she needs to make, I would say, at least 3 a game.
Great. Let's go to Chris.
Hey, Coach Banghart, thank you for doing this today.
Of course.
Chris Lee from WRAL. I wanted to ask you, as we've been seeing the news with, teams will postpone 1 game, or then all of a sudden 4 games are gone. I know that you guys have been preaching safety to your players this entire time, but how does that change or reinforce your message to your players now that they see that how close the season we are to the season, and now it's real? If somebody is irresponsible, and if there's a test that comes back that's positive, that this thing can get taken away very easily. Does that change your message? Does it reinforce your message to your players?
Yeah, it reinforces it probably, for sure. But it also, when obviously we're testing, I feel like it's every 48 hours, or I think it is. And we don't share the test results with them. We tell them we'll let you know if we need, if we have information that we have to share. But the idea of it is a positive test result doesn't mean that you're COVID free. It means you were COVID free when you took the test. And so our kids have really done, I give them huge props. It's also probably a negative. They've done so well that now they're at highest risk. Right. But it's something we all take seriously. My parents aren't even coming for Thanksgiving. It's just the less people around me, the better. I think I'm afraid of contact tracing more than anything, because I don't want to impact any of my players. But yeah, this is real. It's a global deal. It's real. And at the same time, things happen. And if one of our guys gets it and that impacts our team, we're not going to exile them. We're going to quarantine them and isolate them, but we're not going to assume that they didn't care. It's just, you got to kind of treat this whole pandemic with a little bit of humanity as well. And I know it's a hard thing to do.
And I also wanted to ask, as far as reaching out to former players who are part of the Carolina program, how has this pandemic maybe impacted that? Because even though you weren't here for other players, like, have you wanted to bring in former players to help build that camaraderie of this is what we do here at Carolina, and maybe the pandemic has stopped you, or have you thought about maybe pushing it off because of the pandemic?
Yeah, we do a lot on Zoom. I got another one Monday night. We do a lot of alumni Zooms where we can kind of give them up to speed information about the program and the direction and the culture, and introduce some players. And so Zoom has become a really helpful way for us to actually engage with our constituents like this. Like, I wouldn't have gotten all of you guys in one room today. And I'm really happy to be able to share our story in this way. So it's actually in a way been helpful, but I just miss seeing them. You know, Carolina's a place I went and tested over where the men test the other day, because I had to do it before our team did it for a different work obligation. And, you know, Tyler Zeller and, you know, who was it? Another guy. I mean, these are just like, it's a place people like to come back to. And I haven't been able to see a lot of the alumni, which is a bummer, but you know, this is not a time to worry about things like that.
Cool. Thank you. Sorry if you heard a dog or a lawnmower in the background.
Hey, this is COVID life, man. I got you.
Exactly.
Usually,
2020.
many times my kids' teachers say, can you please put yourself on mute? Because I'm saying, you will pay attention. So yeah, I hear you.
Let's go to Jake next.
Hi, Coach. Over the last year and a half, how have you kind of gone about creating and instilling your own new culture after replacing a coach who kind of had some controversy surrounding the program?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I think teams take on the personality of its leaders, and I take that to heart. It's something I take very seriously, and it's something I constantly check day to day. You know, whether for better or worse, your team takes on your personality, and I hope it requires I bring my best every day, because I'd rather them see my better side, right? And so we talk about, I lead by example, I lead with intentionality, and I lead with consistency, and that's really all anybody wants, right? And that's really all that we can do. And so whether it's through teaching or through recruiting or through competing, you know, I do it in the way that is led by example, and it's led with clarity, and it's so people know how I feel. We do a lot of film. They know exactly how I feel about certain things. And then, you know, I think in a way they're that competitors, I hope, that instilled in me. So hope that answers the question.
Yeah, just to follow up, I mean, obviously there's a separation between like the coach and her players, but do you have some sort of like open door policy where if someone feels disrespected, or if someone feels like their voice isn't being heard or something, where they can go to you and just go ahead and address it straight up?
Oh gosh, these kids are in here all the time, and we want that. You know, that's what I mean, obviously COVID has allowed for them to have less in time. Everything else is not in person. And so we say, come with us. We're the ones that are tested. You should be hanging out with us. And they are here all of the time. And so I don't know how football coaches do it. I only have 12 players. I feel like if I can't have a personal, meaningful, consistent relationship with 12 players, that's on me, not them. And so, yeah, I would say I know more about my players than my college roommates, just because I'm around them all the time. So yeah, it's a huge part of coaching them, is to know what makes them tick and what matters to them. And for them to know that sometimes they come in and we're going to talk about my Boston Celtics. Other times that they come in, we're going to watch how you're not defending ball screens well. And it's just, the day is the day.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to RL.
Hey, good afternoon. Dovetailing on what Chris was asking about, what are the last tests that your players and your staff get before the game? And when do you know, okay, everybody's okay, or we have an issue here or there?
I don't know. I know we test every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we play usually Thursday, Sunday. So I don't know. I just sort of expect every day I wake up and say, I wonder how many people I have. I wonder how many people the other team has. I wonder how I am, and we're good. So I don't know the answer to that. I just, as a coach, you never really want to get a call from your trainer or team doctor, even if it wasn't COVID. And that just remains the same now. I don't ever really want to hear from them, and I hear from them all too often as it is. So I don't know the answer to that.
Now, and I wanted to ask, obviously there'll be few fans, but how will the layout of Carmichael tomorrow be different than the way it was last season?
Oh, so different. Okay, so first of all, the bleacher side was which is where usually football and men's basketball sat. That will now be pushed up against the wall with a very beautiful new banner, I will have you know. And then our benches are on that side now, because we have, I think it's 5 rows of 5 people, because of course the 6-foot spacing is up east-west as well as north-south, right? So that's a large space needed. And then across the way, that kind of in the lower bowl, there's going to be some tarps up that are also quite beautiful, that because instead of seeing empty seats. And And so it'll look really different. What's really different for me, we were kind of at our meeting this morning, we were drawing up on the board, like how timeouts look. And so I'm allowed to have our stools, and then I'm allowed to sit next to our players and talk about what happened, that we're all wearing masks. The people that aren't in the game have to be 6 feet behind them, and then our staff. So it's like this, basically this party that you're not invited to, right? But you're on the outside. Everybody is. So there's a lot of things that, like everything with a young team, we're just going to figure it out as we go. But how it went for our inter squad scrimmage the other day was not awesome. So hopefully it's a little more awesome tomorrow, but it'll look very different. But I always say inside the lines, it shouldn't look a ton different. So just watch what's happening inside the lines.
And are there any things going on to kind of simulate a normal game day experience, crowd noise or anything?
There is crowd noise, and some of my guys asked how I felt about it. And to be honest, I didn't even notice it. So that says more about me, not our facilities. I sort of focus on what it is I'm doing, and I'm not smart enough to focus on multiple things. So there is crowd noise, and there is buzzers and scorers and stats, but yeah, there's noise. It's not real noise, but I think it's the same thing the men are doing. I'm not really sure. It felt very weird the other day. So I don't know. We'll have to find out together how this works.
Thank you.
And I can answer some of that later if you want to. But you did an excellent job of answering it as well.
Hardly. That's when you know that's not true. Because when you're like, oh God, I'll clean this up.
No. But just the nuts and bolts that you didn't get to. But the basic gist for everybody is we have flipped the benches to the other side of the court based on needing to have the chairs on the bench spread out more. So it will look different, but if you've covered UNC women's basketball for a number of years, you will remember that the benches used to be on that side. So, but yeah, it'll be a little different look for everybody. Tom, what you got?
Yeah, Coach, I just wanted to ask real quick what your thoughts were on the matchup with Radford and kind of what you guys are focusing on, just that concerns you about them.
Well, Radford comes from winning, right? So that's a team that has pride in winning. Coach has done a really good job instilling toughness, and that doesn't just turn on and off. So we know that that's something that they pride themselves on. And then you throw into it the opportunity they have to play in Carmichael. I mean, this is the house that Michael Jordan built. If you don't meet that with excitement, that's on you, right? And so we know that we're like any team that comes into this gym, we're their target. And when you play a team like Radford, that they've won a whole lot more college basketball games than the people that are on my team have won. They're dangerous, and they're athletic, and they're smaller than we're used to in terms of some of the size that we've been playing against ourselves, and we have giant human beings on our team. So they're different than our scrimmage boys are basically last year's men's JV team. So they're trying to make the men's team. So we're playing against a very good scrimmage team every day that are giants, like 6'5", 6'8". So they're going to be smaller than we're used to. And I don't know how we'll respond to that. I really don't. I hope my kids enjoy game day, and I hope that I go home with a win, but TBD.
Thanks, Coach.
Anybody have anything else? We don't currently have any hands raised, but we have some more time if anybody has anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'll ask one more actually. With Janelle Bailey, Coach, being a returner for you, a senior, also a member of the 2 national watch lists, and a player that played for you last year. What does her experience just bring to the team for you guys?
Everything. I mean, the kid is. We joke that she, Steph, and Petra are older than I am. It's kind of a joke, but almost true. And Janelle also is always a tough matchup because she's got such physicality, right? And so that's a position that oftentimes other teams aren't super deep in. And so, if you go to her early and often and you get them in foul trouble, you're in business, right? And so she's also, to be a pro at the next level, she's going to have to be more of a stretch player than a back to the basket threat because of obviously the size at the WNBA level. And so she's gotten herself in much better shape. So she's able to sustain the 94-foot game better than she was last year. And she's, obviously she's had quite a couple years here anyway. So her experience is really important to what we do. And also just her physicality in the inside on both ends, offense and defense, is just, it's really hard to prepare for. It's hard to play against every day. I don't have to do it, thank God, but it's hard to play against every day as well. And so that, that's a key piece to what we do.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Everybody else, is everybody else good? Kyle, we'll give you a shout out for your holiday decorations. Getting out in front of the curb. Good job.
So great.
all the rest.
Awesome, you guys. Thanks so much. If I can be of help, just let Dana know.
Hey,
Cool,
Coach,
thank
hang on
you,
for
Coach.
just 1 second, but I guess everybody else can jump on if you're finished. Wait, can I still see? Oh yeah, you're still there.
Yeah.
So if everybody's good, we'll wrap it up. We're just going to do a quick TV thing for our home broadcast. So, Coach, we still have Kyle on here who needs just a few things quickly for the.
Yeah, happy to help. Hi, Kyle.
Coach, how you been?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Excited for